Breakfast puppies?
This podcast contains adult language and content and is meant for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
We're all set to begin, so let's dive right in to bikers, dice, and bars. Talking bicycles and motorbikes, gamer things and all the like. You can listen to it in your cars, but mostly it's about dive bars. Bikers, dice, and bars.
Hello, friends. This is NPC. I wanted to open this episode up with a quick note about what you're about to hear. This is, as usual, released as one of our regularly recorded numbered episodes. This episode was also our first attempt at doing a live stream while we recorded. So the audio, it's a little off at the very beginning because I forgot to hit record on my own personal track, but I managed to bring in the audio from the video recording, and we're able to insert it into this episode in kind of a modified format. So it might sound a little janky at the beginning, but it all smooths out in the end. Anyway, we're hoping to do our future episodes recorded live, streamed to Twitch as well. And if you want to follow us when we record and when we stream, you can do so at twitch.tv/breakfastpuppies. Thanks. And now here's the episode. Hey, Poppy, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a true American classic this evening. I am drinking the beer of my people. Yes, I am drinking Budweiser, everybody.
Oh, I thought it was going to be old German. Boo.
No, classic. Since
Official beverage of Bikers, Dice, and Bars. Old German.
Is Old German.
Budweiser.
But the official beverage of my people is Budweiser since 1876. So it's got the little, classic bow tie on there. And I love the little detail of the crown and the pull tab, which is fantastic.
Well, Poppy,
yeah.
I'm drinking something older than you're drinking.
Oh.
What
are you drinking, Xander?
Old Forester. Since 1870, the first bottled bourbon of these United States.
Very nice.
Well, it looks like we got some American stuff going on here. Jacob, are you following us up with a nice American classic?
Yes. Bushmills Red Bush.
That's not American, but that's fine.
It's American as I am.
Okay.
Well, fortunately, that makes me happy because I'm not the only person not drinking something American. I am drinking the classic rum and Coke from a nice green bottle. Not only is it Puerto Rican rum, it's not actually Coke. I'm drinking Pepsi because that's the drink of my people.
Well, if you're drinking Puerto Rican rum, technically you are drinking American NPC.
This is Don Cristal.
That's from Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
that's from Puerto Rico.
Territory, protectorate, I don't know. What's the official term?
A United States territory.
Territory?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I drank so much Don Cristal when I was in Puerto Rico. Oh.
It's good shit. It is good shit.
Yeah,
it worked.
Definitely.
Yeah, they only started importing Don Q to the United States about 10 years ago, I think. For some reason, importing. For some reason, you could only get it in Puerto Rico for a really long time.
When they start importing Bartolito 3-Star, sign me the fuck up.
If it has to cross a state line, that is minimum qualification for me to consider something imported.
Fair enough.
As someone from a state that still has dry counties, my family has a long history of quote unquote importing.
Oh, see, my family just has a history of bootlegging. So,
well, you call it what you want. We call it what we want.
Same thing.
There's some family story about how some uncle's house caught on fire and exploded because they were bootlegging in the basement. But I don't know if that's true or not.
Speaking of bootlegging in the basement, you're listening to Bikers, Dice, and Bars, recorded here in Portland, Oregon. As usual, I'm NPC.
I'm just Jacob.
Oh, that's me. Usually Usually it's just Jacob, so I'm the Dr. Xander Gerrymander.
And I'm Poppy Beaujolais.
And we are, as usual, getting drunk and talking about nerdy shit. And this is our first time actually doing a live stream of this. I hope it doesn't suck. And if it does, I'm sorry. But, well, we don't care. We're drunk.
I'm COVID.
Yeah, this is a COVID. We're doing proper social distancing here. So, yeah.
So, Poppy, you had an interesting proposal for a topic today. Tell us all about it.
Yes. I thought we should talk about classic games. Thus, our classic drinks we're all imbibing this evening. Classic board games, to be more precise. So what kind of classic board games do y'all remember from either back in childhood or just a game that's been around for a really long time? I myself am going to be talking about a cult classic.
My family was a big fan of playing Sorry.
I was going to say Sorry first as well. That was the big one at our house.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Sorry was really a fun one because it was a way to get all of your vindictiveness out to your other family members as you just like knock them across the board. And then you say, "I'm sorry." Clunk. And it's great. So Sorry was a big one in the household. My mother is the queen of Boggle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which might be the loudest game out there.
Other than Yahtzee.
No. Fuck Yahtzee. Fuck
which
Yahtzee.
Isn't a board
Boggle
game,
is
it's
louder.
a dice game. Which was the one with the Pop-O-Matic bubble?
Well, there's actually multiple, and one of the ones that I wanted to talk about was a game that I have never seen on a shelf, be it at a store or someone's house, and it's a game that I think I might be having a fever dream remembering this game, but the number one game besides Sorry that my family played when I was like 10 years or younger was one of those pop bubble games. It was called Lucky Strike. And it had like the dice had little black cats on them because if you rolled the black cats, you were fucked.
Like the cigarettes?
It was just Lucky Strike.
Yeah, that's the cigarette logo for Lucky Strikes, or is that a clover? I can't remember.
Yeah, the whole game was shaped like a clover.
Oh, yeah, that sounds a lot like the Lucky Strike brand of cigarettes, which, I mean, if it was a retro board game that you picked up because it had been in the family for a while, I mean, cigarettes used to sponsor soap operas, for Christ's sake. Days of Our Lives, brought to you by Chesterfield.
No, I do remember a board game. I don't remember what it was, but you would push like the inside bubble thing and like dice would pop up. Am I crazy? The fuck was that? I
think you're remembering Trouble.
Oh, Trouble with the Pop-O-Matic bubble. That's right. So Boggle was the one with the cube-shaped plastic thing with all the dice that you shook in it, right?
And you shake it, and they'll have letters in it, and the whole point of Boggle is to go and make words out of connecting letter dice.
That's loud as fuck. Yeah.
It's super fucking loud, and my mother will crush everybody at that game. I stopped playing with her after a while because there's no point. Like, she was so fucking good at this. It was just like, well, fuck my life. Like,
yeah.
But my mother is the queen of Boggle, and I love her for that. That is going to be her hallmark upon this earth, and it is a beautiful thing.
Okay, I am corrected. I just Googled the game that I'm thinking of. It's not Lucky Strike, it's Lucky Break. I'm sharing it here in our streaming room chat channel. But it does. It has black cats and a little Pop-O-Matic, and it's shaped like a clover.
I have never seen that before.
Yeah, no one I know has ever seen it. What I liked about it is that the board games box, if you look at the cover of it, it has a little cutout right in the middle of the box where the little pop bubble sticks out. So like if you were to pick this up off of a game shelf, you could like look right into it and see the game. It was rad.
That's cool.
Awesome.
I think as far as old school games are concerned as well, I played a lot of Monopoly in my day. And
did you play it right?
Most of the time.
Nobody plays it right. Capitalism, the game.
Most of the time I played it right, with like when you actually go and you have to go and what is that? if you have to go and put a property in the mortgage, you only get a certain amount of money for it, and free parking is not all a fucking cash flow. And yeah, and my whole thing is I've yet to lose a game of Monopoly.
I've only played Monopoly 4 times, and I won half of them. And I say that of those 4 times that I played, only once did we actually play it right. Because every time you play Monopoly, well, you know, depends on who you
People
are.
have their own rules.
Everybody's got their own approach to this, but there's
It's weird
a number of house rules that people don't actually know are house rules. Like the whole
they think that
free
they're
parking
real
thing.
rules.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Welcome to
bullshit.
my house, settle up tight.
Yeah.
There's
There's 2 from my experience, there's 2 rules that people get wrong or that they forget. One is the free parking thing. You don't get money for landing on free parking according to the rules. In fact,
No,
the
you
free
don't.
parking exists for the sole purpose of having a safe place to land that doesn't cost you anything. That's it. And the other one is the fact that the game shouldn't take as long as everyone says it takes, because everybody forgets.
days.
No, it should not take more than a couple hours, because everybody forgets that when you land on a property, if you can't buy it, it's immediately auctioned off to the rest of the table, which means by the end of the first hour, if not the first half hour, all of the properties on the board are taken.
And also, too, if you go and you mortgage properties, there's a whole special mechanic with that as well that most people don't know about.
Yep. Bastards.
Okay, hold on.
All of them.
We got to get, before we hear about Jacob's classic games, I need to get a little soundbite moment here. You ready?
Uh-oh. Oh, yeah. Nice.
That was good.
Turns out you shook the beer and killed a Yeti mic.
Oh, whoops.
It's funny, as you said that, I peeked over and I'm reminded of the fact that I missed the first 5 minutes of my own conversation because I told all of you to hit record. I didn't.
Oh,
But it's fine. I can work with it because we also have this recording, the video. Extraction of audio from video. It's wonderful to live in the future.
This is a beautiful. This is live theater,
The
folks.
future is now.
the future is now.
This is live theater. Well, yeah, and I forgot. I'm not on one of the regular microphones, and I held up a can right and fucking next. Nathaniel's got me on the Blue Yeti for some shit reason.
Well, it's the only USB microphone that we actually have in the house.
Oh, okay.
So, and you don't have an interface to plug into.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wait. I do have that big ass mixer.
Yeah. I have so much. I have 3 laptops in my office right now. So
I hope your desk has room for a 24-track mixer.
No. I mean,
For one mic.
If I want my work Skype meetings to get like really fancy,
Yeah.
that would be, actually, I would love to do that. I would love to do one of my work Skype meetings and have a like your microphone that's on the boom, arm. And,
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Tangent.
So the other game I played a lot when I was a kid was Axes and Allies, as far as a board game is concerned.
I was a really
ever play
sore
that?
loser at Axis and Allies.
You were a poor loser?
Oh, God. I hate it. I've only ever played it when I was like 10 or 12 or something, and I played with my older
me
brother,
too.
his older brother, and so I had 3 older brothers, only one of which was actually a brother, and the other 2 were half brothers of each other. So it was really strange, but they would all come
That got
down.
complicated real fast.
Your quarter brother, right?
One is my quarter brother, and one was my 8th brother. He's no longer with us, but we would play Axis and Allies, and I was like 10. I didn't quite get it. And I actually hated it because it took too long, and I was a real sore loser. Yeah. And, also they made me play Russia.
So to me, with Axis and Allies, the reason that I liked that game was it was like Risk but smarter, because Risk was just like a fucking roll of the dice, whereas Axis and Allies, you actually were able to go and build certain units that had better benefits or attack ratios or the fuck against other things. because like nothing mattered in Risk. You roll sixes, you fucking win. Like that's the game.
No,
that's
the cards. You needed those sweet cards. That's how you won Risk.
Yeah, but it was still like if you rolled ones with all your sweet cards, it didn't fucking matter.
Yeah. You just gotta hole up in Australia and then you can conquer the world.
Oh, 100 fucking percent. That was always my strategy is like, I own Australia. That's it. Poppy?
Yep.
So that was going to be my question. I have played neither game, but what is the difference between Risk and Axis and Allies? That was going to be
fucking everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not even close. Okay.
Axis and Allies is a lot more granular, World War II focused. Risk is more worldwide, vaguely Napoleonic.
Okay.
So different time periods.
Yeah.
But the time periods don't really matter. Like with Risk, it can be whatever time period because the units don't matter. With Axis and Allies, you build submarines, you go and you build battleships, you build bombers, you build fighters, infantry, tank, and all of those things have different types of firepower against other types of units. So because of that, there's actually some strategy behind it. So that's the main difference is that different unit types, different strategies, you go forward with that.
Not just that, but it is a good example of an early popular take on asymmetrical play. Because many board games that we know now today that are popular, that are way newer and way more complicated than a lot of the games that we're talking about today in this episode, there are many games on the shelf of your game store that everyone starts with the same. You start with the same amount of resources, or you might have a few different things, but for the most part, you all start on the same page. Axis and Allies was a game where you started and every single faction played differently. They started with certain resources, their industry, units. Like Germany's whole thing was, in order to play Germany well, you just had to immediately start the game killing everyone. Whereas with America, you needed to build up industry, and Russia was just like, bunker down and prevent Germany from fucking you up.
Pump out a fuck ton of units as fast as possible.
I was going to say that, and if you're playing Japan, just hope Russia's playing like an idiot and storm the west coast of the U.S.
And again, that's the main difference between Risk and Axis and Allies is that depending on where you were geographically, there was an actual strategy to play. And the strategy was fun to play. And you had to build up factories and you had to go and build up industries and whatnot. And all those things had dynamic gameplay value to them. Where again, with the classic Risk game, it was literally just like roll as many sixes as I fucking can. And I've played games in Risk where I've outnumbered my opponent 20-1. And I rolled fucking shit the entire time. And it was like, well, there's no strategy to this game.
Yeah, it's actually not that many steps up from Candyland. Risk is. It's easy to understand, which is why it's been super popular for years. But there's not that much actual strategy to it aside from choice of territory.
And a weird thing, too, with Risk is when I played the old Mac version of it, they gave you different patterns to go and choose from because there was no color in those old Macs. And two of those patterns were fucking swastikas. And it was like, what? Who thought this was a good idea? Like, there's stripes, there's polka dots. Why did you have to make them swastikas? That's fucked up.
Poppy, you looked like you were about to say something.
What was I going to say? Oh, yes, Candyland. Wasn't there a thing that went around a few years ago? I don't know, this could have been 20 years ago. Who knows? Time has no meaning during global pandemic. Wasn't there a thing that went around like a while ago about Candyland? There was like only really one way to win it.
Candyland, there's no way to win it except to hope that the deck is stacked in your favor.
Yep. Yep. It's an entirely random game.
Yep.
Oh, okay, interesting. For some reason, I thought there was like, well, there's only one way to win. Like I heard something about like there's only one way to win, and if you don't do this, then you're totally fucked or something. But
Candyland is what's called an enjoy the ride game.
Yeah.
It's entirely
it's for
random.
small children.
Your input does nothing. It's about enjoying the scenery, and it's like playing a slot machine for all intents and purposes.
Well, and it's intended for. I remember playing Candyland when I was like maybe 3 or 4 years old. It has more to do with like counting and colors, and like it's a learning game, not like a strategy game. Kind of like apples, like bucket. What was it? Apples to
apples to apples?
No, not apples to apples. Buckets of apples or Cheerios or what the hell was that?
So I just shared right now the Apple version of Risk where you can play swastikas, which is so fucking weird.
So I have Risk still, the cartridge, and I verified that it worked earlier today before we started this episode. I have Risk on my Sega Genesis.
We're talking about board games, y'all. Classic board games.
It is a board
Risk
game.
is a classic board game.
It is a classic board game, yes.
Yeah.
My only point was that they made a computer version for it on Apple in which you could play a swastika, and that was fucking weird.
God, I loved those old Apple IIe or Apple IIc games. Those were great.
Okay, Jacob, we haven't actually heard from you. We've been naming some games. Which ones did you start with?
Oh, so let's see. We already talked about a couple of the ones that were big in my house. Risk was a regular play game because all three of my younger brothers could play it. Because, like we talked about, it's a very low barrier to entry. We played a lot of Monopoly. We didn't play so much Sorry. Sorry was not a game that was much around our house. Other big ones were Trivial Pursuit. My house was mad for Trivial Pursuit. And chess was a huge one, which, I mean, talk about one of the great granddaddies of board games.
Yeah.
My dad and I played tons of chess, as did my uncles when they came over, the neighbors. And, I mean, there were other things like Mastermind was a popular one.
Oh, God, that sounds so familiar.
Yeah, it's a decoding game. One player sets a row of pegs behind a shield, and then the other player tries to figure out which set of pegs, and I think they have like 20 tries to figure out what the order of like the 5 pegs are. Kind of like
pre-Battleship.
Yeah. Battleship was one of the other big ones that showed up all the time. We got a lot of weird games. My family, being a hand-me-down house, ended up collecting a lot of very strange games. Connections was an interesting one, which was this old 1950s game, which involved putting pegs in and trying to build a line from one side of the board to the other, but you couldn't cross another person's line. Mm-hmm. So
you've just inspired me to take this a few steps further back. When you started talking about chess, we started talking classic games here. We were thinking like Monopoly and Sorry and whatnot. Well, let's go back a little bit further to games that were probably in more houses before those started to be spread around. Backgammon, dominoes. And I never had dominoes when I was a kid.
Yes.
I learned how to play dominoes in my 20s because it was never something I was exposed to. We only had the Parker Brothers shit.
I just learned in my 30s.
My grandmother, when I can't remember how old I was, but she taught us how to play a specific kind of dominoes game, which she called Chicken Foot.
No, sorry, PTSD. Don't mention Chicken Foot. I'm out.
Oh, no!
It sounds like this story time with Dr. Xander Gerrymander.
Xander, you are safe right now. Take a deep breath. You are safe right now.
Am I?
It's May 8th, 2020. You're an adult. You're safe. Take a deep breath.
I had to check my clock just to make sure you were right.
Ground yourself. Central nervous system depressants also. I am not a doctor. This is not medical advice.
I am a doctor.
No, you're
Hashtag not a real doctor.
Your
I
first
sense
name
a
is
story,
Doctor.
Xander. I need to know the story.
So my aunt is notorious for getting really drunk at parties and just saying awful, terrible things and just being a generally awful person in general.
Oh no.
And at holiday parties, she especially wants to make everyone play chicken foot, which like she will corral you into playing this unless you leave her house. And so it used to be a joke with my my SOs back in the day that when my Aunt Ricky says chicken foot, that's the time we have to leave the house.
Oh no.
Like, we're done at that point.
Sorry.
We're out of here. We're good. Have a good night. It was a great experience, and goodbye.
Is
I
that
didn't mean
the
to
aunt
trigger
that I
you.
met?
Probably.
Really nice, awesome backyard.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
I wasn't going to go and name names, but
No, that's
you know
fine.
who
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
talking about, and that's
Yeah.
it.
No, like they're
Lamb
rad
burgers.
though.
Lamb burgers. They were fantastic.
My
Lamb burgers are
right, because the 4th of July thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're rad.
My uncle Albie, I will name names, is fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, they're awesome. We kind of just like showed up and we're like, we're part of your family now. It's cool, right?
Yeah, and you were, and it was a great party, and it was
great.
awesome. And I'm so happy you guys showed up.
And we did that twice, I think.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, it was
It's
great.
fantastic.
Did any of y'all grow up with Chinese checkers?
Yes.
No.
Yes. In fact,
No.
oh my God, I can't believe I forgot about it. I had a custom Chinese checkers board made by a cousin or an uncle, a friend, someone in the family made me when I was like 7 or 8, a custom Chinese checkers board because I was obsessed with it when I was like 7 or 8. And it had little handmade marbles for all of the
Wow.
pieces.
Wow.
It was wonderful. I don't know what happened to it. It was lost
no.
years ago, probably in a move, and I
Yeah.
feel bad about it. But I was obsessed with Chinese checkers. I loved it. Like I came up with custom house rules for Chinese checkers so much that like we would try and draw different maps. And this was right when I was also getting into D&D. So we would try and change the Chinese checkers board so that it could have different scenarios. Yeah, good times.
I feel like maybe we owned a Chinese checkers game, but I just didn't have the attention span to learn the rules.
Mm-hmm.
As the like hyperactive ADHD like hurricane of a child that I was. I was one that I just for some reason it just didn't grab me.
Chess, Chinese checkers, Go. Those are like 3 of the earliest games I have, other than like literally Candyland. Those are like the 3 earliest games I remember learning how to play.
Cool. And I have never learned how to play chess. I had
What?
such a hard time. Yeah, I know. A friend tried to teach me in like the 4th grade. And then I think Nathaniel once tried to teach me while we were drunken at our favorite bar at the coast. And I cannot remember what all the pieces do. And
That
like,
was a good time. Yeah.
It was a good time though.
I have a
like the-
cool,
like- like the-
chess set. Hold on, I'm gonna find my cool
like the
chess set.
spatial abilities required for that game. Just my brain just does not work that way.
One day I might teach you how to play Go. I think your brain would explode.
So that accidental cult I was in a few years back.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a story.
A couple of them were like really obsessed with playing Go. So maybe we'll see. Talk about being triggered. Well,
The
I
accidental.
have this really cool
the
chess set.
accidental cult. More on that later.
Okay.
This chess set I actually bought from Mexico, where I learned how to go and haggle for the first time.
Yeah, I accidentally learned how to haggle. Speaking of accidental things,
So I was in Mexico,
Speech
and this
skill
chess set was
increased
supposed to be like
27.
this chess set was supposed to be like $30 or whatever. And I told my mom I wanted to buy this chess set in Mexico at La Bufadora. which is blowhole in Spanish.
La bufadora?
La bufadora.
Bufadora.
Yeah.
Bufadora.
And I really wanted this chess set, and my mom was like, "No, you should ask for 20." I'm like, "But they said they wanted $30 for it." And she's like, "Son, that's not how it works here in Mexico."
I'm always so morally conflicted about haggling. Like,
Oh, hell no. At some point, I need to tell you all the story about how I learned to haggle on the reservation. It was quite the feat. Oh, those are beautiful.
Oh, are they wooden or are
really
they
nice.
soapstone?
And then
Wooden,
the other
okay.
chess that I got was from my aunt who went to, if you think those are pretty, my aunt went to Colombia because she was big into in the flower trade.
I thought you were about to say
So
Power
she-
Rangers.
I was. And so she would go to Colombia all the time to go and trade flowers. And so these are the pieces that she would bring back.
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
Oh, those are amazing. Are those like freaking Mayan
Yeah. They're all hand
dudes or
painted.
Aztec dudes, or are those Mayans, Incans, or Aztecs?
I think they're Incans, I believe.
Okay.
But every single piece is like hand painted and beautiful.
Oh my god,
Like,
those
these,
are
like,
amazing.
like these are the bishops right here. So good.
I haven't been. Oh god, I haven't. Sorry, just real quick. I haven't been to Mexico in so long. I really would love to go again. It is so much fun.
I love Mexico.
Yeah. Where in Mexico have you been?
Mostly around border towns.
Oh, okay.
So my grandmother used to live in a little village just north of Ensenada in Baja California called San Miguel.
Okay.
And so I would go to San Miguel at the time to go and visit her. And then my grandfather lived on a border town in Demi, New Mexico, to a place called Columbus, I believe it was called, where we would go and buy his medication because it was so much cheaper.
So I've only ever been to the Yucatan Peninsula. I've only ever been to Cozumel, which is an island
Oh, wow.
in the Yucatan. So Quintana Roo.
Poppy,
I've only
are you a Yucatan or a
You can't?
You could
I messed it up.
can't.
You were reaching, bro.
I was
Oh,
reaching.
God.
It sounded good in
Anyway,
my head,
someday-
and then I started saying it, and I was like, no, that actually phonetically doesn't work out. No.
Someday when COVID
Or a
is over,
Yucatan.
I have Yucatan.
Wow. A Yucatan.
Wow,
Wow.
that's kind of we just lost Mexico.
I'm so, on behalf of Bikers, Dice, and Bars Mexico, I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
I'm half of your people, and I love you.
Shout out to Tony Rome and Cozumel. Hi.
Jacob, you look like you've been wanting to say something for a bit here.
Oh, it's all good. So we've been talking about some of the basic board games that got us all started on this road that led to the geeky group of nerds that I happen to be on a podcast with. What is that thing? I mean, how did those traditional board games shape where you are now?
Well, Chinese checkers for me, definitely. It around that time, I started seeing what I liked was the thing about Chinese checkers specifically that I was obsessed with was the fact that it was kind of an every man for themselves multi-front game where most of the board games that you play, except for something like Risk or Axis and Allies, but really more like Risk is an exception to this. Most of the board games that you play are kind of an every man for themselves, first person to the top wins. But with something like Chinese checkers, you were legitimately fighting everyone at the table until you were making alliances with the guy sitting next to you. You're like, I'm going to jump over this guy's pieces and you can jump over those pieces. And yeah, okay, we'll block him here and block him there.
Oh, college.
I loved that strategy. And that got me, that was the first time I'd ever played a board game cooperatively. But the game wasn't meant to be cooperatively played, but we played it that way, making the same kind of deals that you might make in like a diplomacy game.
Which
So
is,
basically,
again,
you
one of
were-
the board games that shaped my childhood.
You were the United Nations.
So, a fun note on making alliances in a board game. I remember playing Monopoly once with our good friend Chelsea.
Ah, Chelsea, same one.
Chelsea.
Yeah.
Jesse,
And we
pour
would
one out for our homie.
pour one out for
Jesse.
Chelsea.
Yep.
And what we would do, we were playing this game, and we were sending text messages back and forth while playing Monopoly to like broker deals with each other.
Like backroom deals.
Nice.
So everyone else is playing on the board, and we're just like on our phones, like texting, like, if you trade me this, I will give you this, and also possibly sexual favors. I'm not sure. And
Oh my gosh, we should.
it
we
was a
should
fun
post
game.
We should post that beautiful picture of Chessie that we have on our refrigerator right now.
Yeah.
And it was a fun game.
That's awesome.
So again, a mundane board game can become fun real fast.
Jacob, I'm interested in hearing your answer to that question.
Oh, how it shaped it? Well, I really enjoy playing things like poker and other card games that have a fair amount of hidden mechanic and are based heavily on reading who you're playing with. And I started learning those skills and being taught those skills by my dad and my uncles playing chess. Because figuring out how to get the under the opponent's skin and push their buttons so they start decompensating on their analytical skills so they don't see what you're actually doing was where all of that started. And so for me, you know, games were both learning how systems work and learning how people work, and the intersection of those two things, which naturally led to like a very early introduction to role playing and geekiness of all sorts. Because let me tell you, in the early 80s, if you're a chess head, you know, you're kind of already doomed in which clique you're going to end up in.
And, you know, one night in Bangkok and the world's your oyster.
It's your oyster.
Yeah. That's a deep cut.
Yeah.
Deep cut. I was gonna say what I had to go get for a second here was a picture of my darling grandfather. See if I can get that in there. There he is.
Yeah.
My darling grandfather.
Aw.
Rest his soul. He died a few years ago. But one of my favorite memories of my grandfather is it was like around Christmas time, and we were all, you know, around the dining room table one night playing Texas Hold'em.
Hell yeah.
And my grandfather, he did like 2 tours in the Army, you know. Man can play some cards, right? And we're playing cards, we're playing Texas Hold'em several rounds, and they're just kicking our asses, right? But there's this one round where I'm doing surprisingly well, and I am just bluffing the shit out of my grandfather. And he says something like, "There's no way that you're gonna win this round unless you have that jack." And I totally had the jack, and I just sit there like, "You gotta pay to play, old man," or something. You know, I don't know. Like, I was in my early 20s or some shit.
Damn.
And I ended up just cleaning him out during this one hand of poker. And I feel like that was maybe his like proudest moment. But that's one of my favorite memories of my darling grandfather here.
Okay, I want to stop us before we go too deep down that hole, because I'm putting card games in a completely separate category. Anything using playing cards, let's push it aside for another conversation. We're talking board games here. Yeah. Damn it, Poppy.
I'm sorry. No, yeah. Damn it, Poppy. I'm sorry. I'm drinking the beer of my people, you know.
Yeah.
My
I only
grandfather
said
loves
that
some Budweiser.
because that's your handle on Discord.
Yeah, no, Dan, exactly. That's because you said it while we were recording something on games. Damn it,
Oh,
Puppies.
so this
I was
whole
like,
story comes out.
yeah.
So
But I went. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, but chess led to interest in other war games. Playing a lot of Sniper, Squad Leader, Avalon Hill bookcase series games. Figuring out how people like to play games led to role-playing games. That's how it got me there. So,
No, I think that's actually a really good point, Jacob, is, a lot of these board games that I grew up on, were like, I'm playing Axis and Allies, I'm playing Risk, I'm playing Monopoly, whatever the fuck it is. And, my desire was always, how can I go deeper into this? How can I go and actually like really go and make this a much more interesting gaming experience to me? Because they were like, the little like, the steps, as it were, to go into like, oh, now I can actually be a character in this game, which is way more interesting. NPC?
That's a good segue into where I wanted to ultimately take this conversation, which is stepping from these games. If these are all that's at your household, but you want more, and moving into more games, there's going to be a bridge, because you may be used to Sorry and Ants in the Pants and any of those games that are normally what we would consider, at least like 10 or plus years ago, Toys R Us shelf games. But
Toys R Us.
There are gateway games that can take you to games that are more complicated, that are that have more niche and secluded and followings, communities that you have to seek out. You might not be able to find those communities yet. But let's talk about some games that can. Well, some games kind of have cults. If you want to see my Twilight Imperium collection in the back here, what I'm talking about are games that can
all
get
hail
you
the
there.
Imperium.
And we all know those games. Those games that are on everyone's shelves who is moving deeper into nerddom, but isn't quite there yet, or the staple games for those who have taken Monopoly and Sorry off of their shelves and replaced it with other intro games. Let's talk about those games.
Oh, I didn't get to talk about my cult classic game.
Oh, whoa, okay.
Come back to me.
No, let's do that now. Let's do that now before we move into the breakaway to the segue games.
You know what I'm talking about. So cult classic games, as I'm calling it. So there was this very interesting and just like super fun period of my life. I was probably, this was like 99, 2000. I was 18, 19 years old. So really early, like late high school, early college. And we would go over to my friend Beth's house, and she had this game called Atmosphere.
Oh, yes.
And it was an interactive game that you played a VHS, or you later versions, you play a DVD. And every time you played the game, it was a little bit different. And it was meant to be played in the dark. It's played in real time. There's a timer. At any time, the gatekeeper can come up and be like, stop. And it changes.
What about the
game.
Keymaster?
I'm gonna, I don't think there was a Keymaster. Let's see if I can get this. So this is what the DVD version looks like.
I finally caught that.
And it's played, it's randomized, it's played in real time. It's very like spooky and creepy, and like you're trying to play really fast. And I just have really lovely memories of me and like my best girlfriends just in Beth's basement on a Friday or Saturday night with the lights out, like playing this game, just like having a good old time. And the only way you can get this game now is on eBay for like $100 or something. And I'm pretty sure when my poor friend Beth's house burned down, she lost like all of her cool shit. But that game is like definitely like a cult classic, I would say.
Jacob?
So just going to say, Poppy, I also played that game, and all I have to say to that is Soul Ranger for life, baby.
It was so long ago. I don't remember. I was so drunk during those times. I don't remember.
You reminded me of an experience that I wish to share, because whatever, we're live, and so much of this is going to be trimmed down for the actual episode. When I was in my teens and I was really into D&D, actually, I was really into Shadowrun, baby.
Shadowrun.
My sister,
Shadowrun.
my younger sister had Mall Madness.
Oh my God, I love Mall Madness.
We power gamed the fuck out of Mall Madness one night when all of her and her friends were out at a sleepover or something, and me and my friends had our own special like nerd sleepover. So we're like, we're tired of playing D&D. Let's do something special. So we broke out Mall Madness and played it. And I'll tell you what, that game is fucking brutal. Like, we started like forming cabals that would block all the exits so the other players couldn't actually get out with their sweet loot.
Wow.
Oh my God. Here's what I want. I want a crossover of Last Night on Earth and Mall Madness.
There is one. Our housemate Alex has it. It's called Mall of America, MAUL, Mall of America.
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
It is essentially Mall Madness plus
Wow.
House of the Dead.
I was going to say, at some point, I need to teach you all the rules to Sociopath Clue.
See, that's where I thought you were going to go, Poppy, because I know of your obsession with Clue. And Clue is very much a classic game.
Clue is probably my favorite classic board game. I'm trying. My foggy noggin says that maybe I talked about Clue already on a previous episode. I honestly can't remember. And who knows? Yeah. But I love, like, I've been playing Clue since as early as I can remember. And the thing about Clue was that my sister always kicked my ass at it. And like to this day, I swear, like her and I could sit down and play Clue and she'd still kick my ass.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's just so much better at like keeping track of like what everybody else is doing. And I get like really focused on my shit, I don't know. Maybe now that I know that I have ADHD, it would be different.
Yeah.
But she would always just kick my ass. I'm so terrible at that game, but it is so much fun. And I have like the special edition version of it. It's lovely.
And just a side reference to Clue, if you are one of our listeners or if you're brand new, go back and check out our Tales from the Loop 5-part gameplay series. There's a nice nod to Clue in the last episode. I don't want to give anything away. You should check it out. It's wonderful. I had a lot of fun with that one.
Xander, you had something.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's games like Clue in particular that really kind of made the leap from me to board games to role-playing games. Mm-hmm. Because you had these kind of pre-made interesting characters and the character design was really cool and whatnot. And then I kind of thought to myself, like, could I just make my own and play a game like that? And that's kind of how I found my way into role-playing games. Where you could have this air of mystery, this murder mystery, these clues you had to go and uncover, but I could make the character all of my own.
Yeah. Well, and Clue is one of those games, too, that is incredibly detailed for what it is. If you really look at a Clue board game, it's very, very detailed, and the art is actually pretty phenomenal, I think. So
let's switch back to that topic that we tried to segue a minute ago. Gateway games. The ones that can bridge that experience from playing these old classics that are probably getting a little stale at this point, and moving into something a bit more involved with more strategy and the kind of game that you might enjoy once again having a conversation with people about outside of your living room. One of our anonymous commenters here on our stream, Father Morpheus, has mentioned Talisman. Talisman one is one that I had forgotten about because Talisman is one that I wasn't even introduced to until I was in my 30s. But I understand it's a pretty good game for bridging that gap from classics to modern games. Anybody? Talisman? Familiar? Yeah?
I don't know if I've ever heard of that one, actually. What is Talisman?
Jacob, take it away.
It's a great way to lose about 4 to 6 hours.
Think of Monopoly, but instead of Monopoly, you're adventurers in a dungeon.
Oh, that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool game. It's actually on Steam too. I've got Talisman and many of the expansions on Steam that I got through some kind of a special deal. If any of you listeners or hosts also have Talisman on Steam, let's talk and play. It'll be a lot of fun. But not even quite as complex as Talisman. I'm talking games like Settlers of Catan and Carcassonne and Ticket to Ride. These are games that 10 years ago we thought were breakout games, or 10, 15 years ago, I guess, that were the kind of games that you could only get at your gaming store. But these games are now on the shelves at Target and Walmart. These games have become modern classics. Can you think of any others?
Puerto Rico was, I think, one of the first board games that I played as an adult that was not a party game, Milton Bradley, Parker Brothers, or whatever.
Yeah, Tsuro is another one, and Tsuro of the Sea, and
Xander, what's going on?
What? No, nothing. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not pulling out a sword. It's okay.
Oh, okay.
Clearly not. It's a letter opener.
Continue about Puerto Rico.
All I know about Puerto Rico is that about 15 years ago when I first heard of it, I remember people saying that it was really hard to find, but maybe that has changed.
It's just like next to Cuba. I don't understand how it's so hard to find.
Well, you know.
I've actually been there.
My only problem with that game was that when you traded people, like the little meeples were literally like brown.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You trade people in a game called Puerto Rico where the people are actually brown?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's
okay, I'm pulling out my sword again.
Let's table that conversation.
Yeah.
Because
pulling out my
There's
sword
some
again.
problematic elements with that game.
okay, but seriously, bringing it back, you've got games like Catan. Catan is a game that most every nerd who's into board games has a copy of it sitting on their shelf somewhere on the off chances that one of their relatives is going to come over for a holiday and want to play Monopoly, and they're going to say no, but we'll play Catan instead.
Yeah. It's a good gateway game.
Yeah.
I still have no problem with Catan. I know some people fucking hate this game at this point.
I fucking hate
I do
Catan,
not.
but yeah.
I know enough people who don't know anything about good board games to where that board game is complicated enough to which they're interested and they are into it and will play the game and will not play Monopoly instead. So I'm fine with Catan.
I usually keep a copy of Love Letter in my bag at all times, simply because I would rather play Love Letter than Catan. And I think Love Letter is going to be another nice, wonderful bridge game because it's super simple and it's got a really deep strategy to it that becomes deeper and deeper the more that you play it.
And if I want to have fun with the game, when I pull out my copy of Gloom.
Oh my God, Gloom!
From
Yes!
created by another Portland local, Keith Baker, who some of our listeners may know as the designer of Eberron.
Oh shit!
Gloom is such a beautiful gateway game because, especially for game masters, I found that really good game masters click very well with Gloom because you have this family that you are responsible before, but don't inherently have a lot of attachment to, since the goal is to kill them.
Yes.
And it's about creatively telling stories from purely random draws of cards.
Yes.
And Gloom is a set of training wheels for future game masters and really good role players.
Can we talk too about just how beautiful these cards are? So
The cards are gorgeous. Yes.
So you have cards like this, and they're translucent, and when you play things over them,
they become different.
They will block off certain things.
Yeah, they stack
so you can
up.
still see through them. And once you can't see them anymore, then those cards are, they're nil.
They're basically modifiers.
Yeah. So it's, again, you play things over it like this, and you can keep playing things over them until you can't see them anymore. It's a fucking brilliant game design.
Yeah, that's a wonderful choice in gateway games.
Yeah.
Well, and Xander, I believe that before we started recording, you were showing us pictures that you were, in fact, delighted by duckies earlier today.
Oh, yes, I was.
Which is a card in Gloom.
All right, so for the chat channel, I just want to show everybody really quick. It might not go through. It's okay. That's fine, but I'm going to try my best. I was at Safeway on Hawthorne a couple nights ago, and this guy was playing guitar. He's a pretty good guitar player. And then he went and he showed me what was in his little like cooler bag, which were
smudges.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Smudges. Light smudges.
That's a ducky, everybody.
There's two duckies. There's two duckies in here.
It's not a. It's
it's not coming through.
Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna share it in the Discord channel right now because it's so fucking good. These duckies were named Duck Norris and Quacky Chan, and it was the best thing of my entire life. So I'm gonna share them right now.
Yeah. So in Gloom, you're trying to kill your family in like the most horrific way possible, and Gloom is a bit of a fuck your neighbor kind of game. So you can play lovely positive things on other families, such
to make
as
them live better.
Delighted by duckies to make their deaths not quite so awful.
So we've only got a few more minutes because I understand Xander's got to go get some food. Jacob, did you have something quick to say?
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say that due to how fast I got into role-playing, due to older friends and such, my gateway drugs were like choose your own adventure books and then right into Redbox D&D.
Yeah.
However, I've used things like Warhammer Quest,
Hero Quest, also
Hero Quest, if you can find it. Other things like I've done some backdoor stuff with the board game version of a couple D&D products, like the original Dungeons and Dragons board game for one thing, and things like that. That's I for me, my experience for gateway drugs was figuring out how to get other people interested in the hobby potentially.
I want to go ahead and kind of wrap this up and bring it so we can let Xander go get some food and we can close this feed and let all our friends get on to their evening. I do have a quick note. Hero Quest, you've mentioned it, and Brandon in our discussion group mentioned it as well. Hero Quest is a fantastic game that a lot of us in the 90s got obsessed with. And Hero Quest is really hard to find now, but there's a huge community for it online with all kind of handmade maps and custom scenarios. And if you really, really, really want to get into Hero Quest, if you are nostalgic for that, just hardcore dungeon crawl board game, Alex Jacobian of Bloody Eye Games, he was going to be another one of the guests of honor with us at WagonCon this year. Unfortunately, WagonCon didn't happen, but Alex is a good friend of mine as well, and he a few years ago made a spiritual successor to the Hero Quest board game called Broadsword. And that name itself is a joking reference to, well, I tell you what, go to YouTube, search for the best thing about Hero Quest, watch that video, and then while you have the YouTube screen open in your web browser, just keep hitting the button or the number 7 on your keyboard, and you're going to have a great time. I promise you. Hero Quest. I also want to give another shout out to Game Night Lounge here in Portland, Oregon. They're doing some fundraiser stuff right now. Hopefully they will reopen because they have a copy of Hero Quest that you can check out and play while you drink wonderful drinks and eat wonderful food.
Eat great food.
The food is amazing, and actually they have reopened, and I believe doing growler fills right now.
Yeah. And
in Portland. So yeah,
And if I can give a quick shout out right now, too, if you need beer during this pandemic, go to your local bars and your local breweries, because most of them are going and doing takeout orders for food and drink. Patronize them, treat them well like you've always treated them well, but now they need it more than ever.
Tip well.
I went to 13 Virtues in Selwood yesterday because it was a beautiful day. I went on a scooter ride, and they were selling 16-ounce cans for $3 a pop, and I was like, yeah, just give it to me. I'll take it. And I'll tell you, the two IPAs I had were so fucking good. Go to 13 Virtues. They're great.
Yep. Definitely.
And Xander, the final thing that I want to close out with is something that you were talking about a minute ago. This is our first ever stream for Bikers, Dice, and Bars. We've been working hard at kind of getting this assembled. And honestly, this stream was put together last minute. So there was kind of no announcement for it. And I'm really glad that we've had listeners, we've viewers, we've had people commenting in a channel. But tomorrow night, you could come back, because tomorrow night, we're playing an extended ongoing campaign of my favorite game, because I made it, Hammer Crawl.
Yes,
we are. It's my favorite game because it's my baby.
What was the game?
Hammer Crawl. Hammer Crawl!
You said it wrong.
There you go, Xander. Xander is one of the players in this game, and he is playing a very interesting character. Let's just going to say that he is from Tasty Town. I don't want to give anything away, but you should definitely come join us. Jacob?
And I'm going to make a cameo appearance tomorrow night as well.
And you can join me in their chat channel harassing these fine folks.
Yeah. We're going to be using this.
Hecklers.
Yeah, we'll be using the same format that we have here, but with a different overlay. But we'll have all the gifts streaming through here, that the gift
also
heckler
screaming.
And her extended family, all of which are also WagonCon regulars, will be joining us and accenting our gameplay with fantastic imagery.
Squirrel and Alex, we expect you there.
A mad shout out to the whole Leech family. You guys are a bunch of goddamn American heroes as far as I'm concerned.
And
Please
on that note, yes, please adopt us. On that note, thank you for listening and watching. You have been observing Bikers, Dice, and Bars, recorded here in Portland, Oregon. As usual, I'm NPC.
I'm just Jacob.
I'm the good... the arrows are so good. I am the good Dr. Xander Gerrymander.
And I'm Poppy Beaujolais.
And again, we wish to remind you,
keep it shiny side up.
When we get back to work, please tip your fucking bartenders like there's no tomorrow.
For fuck's sake, if you're going for a growler refill, tip your bartender.
Tip them anyway. Find their information and send them some tips on Venmo.
I like Venmo money. Just throwing it out there. And Brandon, I love you, by the way. I love you so much. Your weekend tips. Mwah, love you.
While you were tipping your bartender, be sure to roll some critical hits.
And please always drink responsibly.
And again, thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining us. We've reached the end of Bikers, Dice, and Bars. Talking